In the early morning hours of June 7th, 1992, something happened inside a modest home on East Delmer Street in Springfield, Missouri. Whatever took place that night was quiet, controlled, and devastatingly effective by the time the sun rose. 3 women had vanished without a trace, and more than 3 decades later. No one knows where they went, who took them, or why. The women were 19-year-old Susie Streeter, her best friend Stacy McCall, also 19, and Suzie's 47-year-old mother, Cheryl Levitt. What makes this case especially disturbing is not just that 3 people disappeared at once, but that they vanished from inside their own home, leaving behind their cars, their purses, their clothes, and every indication that they had planned to return. Susie Streeter and Stacy McCall had just graduated from Kickapoo High School the day before. June 6th was supposed to be one of the happiest nights of their lives after the graduation ceremony. The girls attended several parties with friends, celebrating late into the night. Witnesses later confirmed that both girls were in good spirits, laughing and making plans for the next day. Originally, Susie and Stacy planned to stay overnight in a friend's house, but as the night wore on, the house became crowded with other graduates sometime after 2 a.m. The girls decided instead to return to Susie's home. There was nothing unusual about this decision. They had stayed there many times before. Susie's mother, Cheryl Levitt, was home that night. She had recently moved into the house and was known as a responsible, cautious woman. Earlier that evening, Cheryl had spoken on the phone with a friend. She did not mention any concerns, strange visitors, or anything that felt out of place. There was no indication that she was afraid. Sometime after 2, Susie and Stacy arrived at the house. That moment, the exact time they walked through the door, is the last confirmed moment any of the 3 women were ever seen alive the next morning. Susie and Stacy were expected to leave early for a planned trip to a local water park with friends. When they didn't show up, concern began to grow. Repeated phone calls to the house went unanswered. This was unusual, but not immediately alarming. After all, it had been a late night. Eventually, a group of friends drove to the house to check on them. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Susie's car was parked outside. The front door was unlocked inside. The house appeared normal. Beds looked slept in. Clothes were neatly folded. Makeup and personal items were scattered as if the girls had gotten ready for bed and never finished cleaning up. But the women were gone. Stacy's purse was found inside the home, containing her money and identification. Susie's belongings were still there as well, Cheryl's. Car was parked outside, her purse inside the house. None of the women had taken their essentials. Outside the house, a shattered glass globe from the porch light was found on the ground. Believing it to be accidental, friends swept it up and threw it away, unknowingly destroying what may have been one of the most critical pieces of physical evidence in the entire case. Inside the house, there was another disturbing detail. The answering machine contained a message, described by those who heard it as strange and possibly threatening. The message was later accidentally erased before investigators could preserve it. By the time police were officially involved, key evidence was already gone. Investigators quickly realized something chilling. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken doors, no blood, no overturned furniture, no obvious struggle. Whatever happened had been fast, quiet, and deliberate. The leading theory was terrifying in its simplicity. Someone had entered the home, possibly someone the women knew or trusted, and gained control over all 3 of them without violence. At some point, they were forced to leave the house together. But how do you force 3 women to leave their home in the middle of the night without waking neighbors or leaving evidence? That question has haunted investigators for decades. Police explored the possibility of a single attacker using a weapon to control the women. Others theorized that there may have been more than one person involved. The lack of physical evidence made every theory speculative. As the investigation widened, several suspects emerged. One of the earliest suspects was a violent criminal who lived nearby and had a history of abduction. He later died in prison, taking whatever knowledge he may have had with him. Another suspect was a gravedigger who claimed he knew where the bodies were buried. His statements were inconsistent, and extensive searches turned up nothing. Perhaps the most chilling theory involved organized crime. Some investigators believed the women were taken to an abandoned parking garage and killed elsewhere, their bodies buried beneath freshly poured concrete, despite radar scans and digging. No remains were ever found. Years passed, leads dried up, witness memories faded, no bank accounts were touched, no credit cards were used, no phone calls were made. There were no confirmed sightings of any of the women anywhere in the country. It was as if they had vanished completely. The families were left in a state of permanent limbo. Without bodies, there could be no funerals. Without answers, there could be no closure. Every phone call, every knock at the door carried the possibility and the fear of new information. The house on East Delmer Street still stands today. New owners have come and gone, but the story remains attached to it. Many believe the crime was committed by someone familiar with the home, someone who knew where the women slept, how to enter quietly, and how to control the situation without panic. The Springfield 3 case has become one of the most haunting unsolved disappearances in American history. 3 women vanished in a matter of minutes, leaving behind a silent house filled with unanswered questions. No arrests have ever been made, no suspects have ever been charged, and somewhere the truth remains hidden, waiting to be discovered or lost forever. As the investigation stalled, one of the most troubling realities became clear. The Springfield Police Department had never handled a case like this before. 3 people taken at once from a private residence. With almost no physical evidence, every decision mattered, and many of those early decisions would later be questioned. One of the most damaging mistakes occurred before investigators even arrived. Friends and family, worried and confused, had moved through the house freely. They cleaned broken glass. They answered phone calls. They erased messages in their panic. They unknowingly erased pieces of the crime scene forever. Police later admitted that the home should have been sealed immediately. Instead, crucial evidence was lost in the first critical hours. As days passed, the theory that the women had left voluntarily quickly collapsed. None of them had packed clothing. None had withdrawn money. None had contacted friends or relatives. Cheryl Levitt had responsibilities she would never have abandoned. Suzy and Stacy had plans for the future. Everything pointed to one conclusion: they had been taken. Investigators focused heavily on the idea that the women had been forced to leave the house alive. This raised terrifying questions. If they left willingly, who convinced them? If they were forced, how was it done so quietly? One possibility was a weapon. A gun would have allowed a single person to control all 3 women. Another theory suggested more than one attacker, but with no fingerprints, no DNA, and no witnesses, nothing could be proven. Over time, several suspects drew attention. One man, a known violent offender living nearby, had a history of crimes involving control and intimidation. He was questioned extensively, though many believed he was capable of such a crime. There was never enough evidence to connect him definitively. He later died in prison, leaving investigators with only unanswered questions. Another suspect was a gravel digger who claimed he had information about the case. He reportedly made statements suggesting the women were buried beneath a parking garage. The claim triggered extensive searches, including ground-penetrating radar. Nothing was found. Some investigators began to suspect the involvement of organized crime. Springfield was not immune to criminal networks, and some believed the women may have seen or known something they were never meant to. This theory suggested the crime was carefully planned and executed by professionals. Again, no proof emerged as years passed. The case grew colder, leads slowed to a trickle, witness memories faded, evidence degraded or disappeared. Technology improved, but without physical evidence, even modern forensic advances had little to work with. For the families, time became its own form of punishment. Every anniversary reopened the wound. Every rumor sparked hope, followed by disappointment. Without bodies, there could be no funerals. Without answers, there could be no peace. The house on East Delmer Street eventually changed owners. New families lived there, unaware at first of its history, yet the mystery remained attached to the walls. Locals avoided discussing it. Others couldn't stop talking about it.